Let's dive in to a DM with the universe. Welcome to a DM with the universe. I'm Hayley Barkler, and this is a little bonus episode so we can talk about the definition between source, soul, and self. As you may be aware from one of our prior episodes, Laura and I have differing opinions, or had differing opinions on what those terminologies mean, and we obviously need to get clear and give you one thing so it makes listening to this podcast a whole lot easier. So I've channeled some information today. Don't worry, Laura knows that I'm doing this episode. I'm not doing it behind her back. And we're just going to sort of set the way that we're going to frame source, soul, and self in any future conversations. The full channeled information will be down below in the description of this episode if you want to delve into that a little bit deeper. And if you've got any questions, by all means, feel free to ask us and we'll answer those from there. So just to set the scene, source is the full potential of all creation, of all thought, of all realities. It is the be all and end all of existence, the whole shebang. Soul is a separate aspect of that source, and we call that consciousness. So it's a small piece of consciousness that's come out of source that wishes to be individuated, so source may know itself in a much greater depth. When you are everything, you have no way of reflection. So it's creating a whole lot of, multitude, millions, billions, I don't know how many souls there are, of points of reflection for it to see itself and understand itself. The soul is like a mini version of source for all the selves that will then also experience themselves. The soul individuates out into selves. So selves are the character roles, the personas that we play in many, many lifetimes. So that can be lifetimes here on Earth, they can be off planet, they can be in different dimensional frequencies, they can be running simultaneously in different timelines. There is a whole multitude of selves running around having experiences from this single soul. The soul provides life force. The soul provides guiding light to those selves. So part of, if we talk about our experience as a human, I'm sitting here as a self, and in this iteration, I'm Hayley Barkler, and I have the opportunity to learn these lessons and be guided by my soul to have a more enriched experience. Now, I don't have to be guided by that soul. I may tune out from that, and then I'm just a self having that experience without knowledge of the soul. But the soul gives us that extra layer, that extra depth of feeling, and it does have obviously connection back into all these other selves that are happening at that same time. So when we have soul awareness and soul connection, we have the ability to see life in a broader sense and feel more, have knowings of past or simultaneous experiences so that we can bring that into this life and learn and grow more in this life. The soul has the ability to impact the feeling side of the self, but it doesn't have the ability to impact or shift the thinking side of the self. And that's a whole part about ego and being stuck in our minds, and why we're starting to have to really bring ourselves down to our heart so that we can have that soul-based experience here on Earth. So the self comes through as a predetermined package, let's say. The channeling has given us a reference point of a gift tag hanging on a Christmas wishing tree at a department store, if you're aware of those type of things. And it has a name, it has the age, it has maybe some interests, and then you go off and, buy a present and wrap it up. And that's sort of the role of the self in every lifetime. You've got this outer shell and you need to fill it with all these experiences and these learnings. This self is a one and done situation. It never replicates. Although we have reincarnation, that is, if you believe that, obviously, that is just another aspect of soul, another aspect of soul, another aspect of soul coming back in these different forms of self. But this self as an individual, so me as Hayley Barkler, white 40-year-old woman sitting here, a bit older than 40, isn't going to come back. I'm not going to reincarnate as myself right now. I will reincarnate as an aspect of this same soul, if that makes more sense to you. So they're sort of the key roles of all those aspects. The soul owns the self, it can't control it. The self has that full free will and decides whether it wants to become soul aware in this lifetime. What the soul does, though, is it creates a barrier between source and the self. So it formulates that ability to have separation and therefore create an environment for there to be transformation and growth. If we knew everything at every stage in the process, there would be no reason for source to separate in the beginning. And that is part of knowing the oneness of, or the wholeness of creation. So essentially, those three aspects set up a playground. The self is to the soul as the soul is to source. And that's pretty much it. I hope that makes some sense to you. Thanks for joining me on the couch today, where the ordinary meets the extraordinary.